Well, good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me out there. My name's Mike, the chair of the St. William's Ancient Cave Society. And this evening, we've got our archivist, Pam Cranston, who's going to be giving us all a talk on Old Handsel Monday. Pam's done quite a lot of research on this old tradition, which was celebrated across, everybody. I hope celebrated across Scotland and elsewhere. And she's going to tell us about how it was celebrated in East Wemyss. So I'll just get her slides up for us. And take it away, Pam.
Thank you very much, Mike. Welcome to the talk. It follows on from the one I gave last year for SWACS, but with more detail to put it into context, more context with the changing times and with the cave site. So, although largely forgotten now, Handsel or Handsel Monday was once an important and eagerly awaited winter holiday in Scotland, Northern England, Ireland, and a few other places, especially in rural areas. So what do we mean by Handsel Monday? The term derives from an Anglo-Saxon term, Hanselen, meaning to deliver into the hand. It's related to the Old Norse word Hansel, meaning to seal a deal with a promise with a handshake, which still sometimes happens. Also, the Middle English term Handsel, meaning to give a token of good luck. For good luck, a small tip or in return for a good turn or good service and anticipation of the same in the year to come. Hansels were also gifted to mark auspicious occasions or new beginnings, such as the birth of a child, housewarmings, and that kind of thing. And indeed, they still are. Hansels could take any form, but were traditionally monetary tips or consumable treats. Handsel Monday was not a religious holy day or holiday from which the term comes, but superstition did play a large part in it and in what was gifted, with certain things regarded as good luck tokens and others as bad omens and so to be avoided. Lucky coins, usually of small denomination, were always welcome and meant to be kept rather than spent, as you weren't meant to give your good luck away. Silver or gold coins were, of course, luckier. A silver threepenny or sixpenny bit, or in Scotland, a wee bawbee, which is worth 6 Scots pennies, was more than welcome. In Ireland, or wherever Irish people moved to, Handsel Monday was often known as Little Christmas. One Irish tradition was to send out someone at midnight with a silver coin to circle home 3 times, conferring blessings on the house, before re-entering to gift back the coin as a token of prosperity and of good luck, which kind of combined religion and superstition. In Scotland, first footers, that is the first person over the doorstep, bring in symbolic gifts of coins, salt, bread, or maybe shortbread or oatcakes, and a lump of coal to represent good luck and the hope of a plentiful larder and warmth for the year to come. And perhaps a convivial wee dram of ushkavar, whiskey, the water of life, for good health and good cheer. Traditionally, a tall, dark-haired male first footer was luckier. Red-haired men might bring bad luck, as may women. So no bigotry or sexism there then. Sexism. If a purse or wallet were gifted, it must include a lucky coin, a tradition that continues in my family and many others, because you wouldn't wish an empty purse on anybody else or cause it to become empty. Sharp objects should never be given for fear of cutting the bonds of friendship and severing relationships. Now, although Handsel Monday generally involves no religious observations within the official Christmas, it does fall within the official Christmas period, which in the liturgical calendar lasts for 40 days, from Christmas Day to the 2nd of February, which is Candlemas. The traditional 12 days of Christmas were originally holy feast days, and they stretch from the 25th of December to the 5th of January, which is 12th night, or the eve of the Feast of Epiphany, as the 6th commemorates Epiphany, with the arrival of the gift-bearing Magi, or 3 wise men or kings. In some continental countries, the 6th of January is still the traditional gift-giving day. However, in Christian Orthodox countries, Christmas is the 7th of January because they follow the old-style Julian or Orthodox calendar. Christmas 2020 was restricted to a one-day event, which upset a lot of people, but there are precedents. Back in 1647, under Charles I, the Puritan government abolished Christmas throughout Great Britain and the colonies, Americas, and elsewhere. and it was continuously prescribed by the Calvinist and Presbyterian Church. The prohibition of Yule, as it was known in Scotland, took place earlier, and the Scots government banned it in 1640 and again in 1690. And this ban wasn't repealed until 1712, but Christmas was still largely unrecognised in Scotland. It wasn't until 1958 that it actually became an official public holiday north of the border. In Western Christianity, the 26th of December is the feast of St. Stephen, the first Christian martyr, and various customs were practiced on the day. In Victorian times, it became known as Boxing Day because it was based on the notion of Christian charity. Many people lived in dire poverty in Victorian era and in fear of the poorhouse, especially in the towns. So the notion of charity, which is embedded in Christianity, prompted church collections for the poor and wealthier people, boxed up food for the needy, such as leftover Christmas fare, cakes and pies, and gave servants a day off, along with the Christmas boxes to share with their families. Handsel Monday predates Boxing Day by 500 years, and though not a holy day, it does involve acts of charity, as I said, in the form of small rewards, kindnesses, and a day of rest from labour. It was celebrated on the first Monday of the new year following the 12th of January, Old Style, a custom that survived well into the late 19th century until superseded by the two-day Christmas and Boxing Day holiday and New Year's celebrations, which replaced Handsel Monday. So what does Old Style mean? Old Style refers to the Julian calendar, which was in use in Western European countries until the mid 16th century, when a new calendar was implemented, named for but not created by Pope Gregory XIII. But it wasn't adopted in all Christian countries at the same time. Protestant countries resisted the change. Britain didn't move on to the new style calendar until the mid-18th century. So what's the difference here? Well, both are solar calendars based on a 360-day year divided into 12 months, but the Gregorian moved 11 days ahead of the Julian to correct an error in reflecting the time it takes the Earth to circle the sun and omitting an addition of 11 minutes in the solar year, which caused the months to fall steadily out of line with the seasons, and importantly for Christian countries, making it difficult to calculate the date of Easter, an important date in the Christian year. And to rectify this, the days between the 4th and 15th of October 1582 were simply wiped off the calendar. People went to bed on the evening of the 4th and woke up on the 15th with no time travel involved. Similarly, the adoption of the new style calendar in Britain resulted in a reduction of 11 days to bring us into line with other Western European countries. So when the change of calendar was implemented in September 1752, the day after the 2nd became the 14th. The 12 days of Christmas celebration were reduced to 1, except in Scotland, where it was still largely unrecognised. Historically, Christian 12th night celebrations included feasting, guising, jesting, masks, mockery, and elements of role reversal, a temporary reversal of the social orders, with servants appointed king and queen or lord and lady for the day, while their employers acted out serving roles. In the old ballad based on the 12 days of Christmas, a series of even ever crazier gifts arrive each day, and it all culminates in lords a leaping, pipers piping, drummers drumming, and one great big party. Of course, at court and in wealthier houses, a lord or lady of misrule or bishop of fools, or in Scotland, an abbot of unreason, was appointed to oversee the revels. Mockery of church hierarchies was not uncommon, as depicted here by Bruegel Elder, nor was it appreciated by the authorities, who periodically suppressed the sacrilege. The 12th night customs tended to come and go with shifts in religious practice from Catholicism to Protestantism, but many Christian customs predate Christianity and have their roots in more ancient traditions. The Celtic Druids celebrated Yule, a midwinter practice, a tradition practiced by in Northern Europe by Germanic and Scandinavian people, including the Vikings, and there were certain similarities. Yule generally falls between the 20th to the 23rd of December and celebrates the solstice, the shortest day and longest night of the year, and also welcomes the return of the light as the days draw out and darkness recedes. Rituals are believed to have involved processing, feasting, singing, dancing, sacrifice, and the burning of Yule logs, the sacred oak, or in Scotland, it could be ash or birch. Yule logs were meant to burn for around 12 days. Wreaths were made from mistletoe or holly. These were sacred plants in Celtic mythology. Gathering mistletoe, as we see reimagined here, was an important rite practiced by a chief druid. This magical healing herb symbolized fertility, regeneration, and peace. It kept evil at bay and was thought to be a key to other dimensions. Wreaths were made of it, and sacrificial bulls were garlanded in it, as we see again here. Holly was also believed to be protective and symbolize the dark days of winter. We still decorate our houses with it at Christmas and hang mistletoe to signify friendship, peace, and love, which is why we kiss under it. Yule logs are still burned on open fires, or even cakes made to represent them, but we don't expect them to last to 12 days. Well, not a chocolate log in my house anyway. The Romans also celebrated the solstice. Their midwinter Saturnalia festivities also lasted several days, involved feasting, gift-giving, wreaths, candles, decking the halls with holly, sacrifices, and role reversals. They practiced and imposed their customs wherever they ruled. And Christianity was similar. Christianity aimed to suppress and supplant such pagan rites and superstitions, imposing new beliefs to older ones, building churches on or near pagan sites, but symbolic elements of the old beliefs survived in customs and traditions, and the church always came down heavily on them. The celebration of Christmas and everything that came with it, and anything to do with superstition, were staunchly suppressed in Scotland. Well into the 18th century, under James I, thousands of people were tried for witchcraft throughout Britain. Many, mostly women, were tortured and killed for following the old ways, or being accused of following the old ways. And the last witch trials in Scotland took place in the early 18th century, as indeed they did in England. But the old beliefs didn't suddenly go away. As seen in the writings of the Reverend Robert Woodrow, a minister and historian and librarian at the University of Glasgow, and son of James Woodrow, professor of divinity at the university. Woodrow's book was taken very seriously indeed. It was accepted doctrine and run into several editions. Here he renounces everything from the names of the days of the week and months to Yule and Christmas through to Candlemas and any other holy days or holidays which hark back to the Roman Church and calendar or pagan superstitions, which implies that people were still following at least some of the old customs, including Handsel Monday. The old 12-day Christmas holiday period became a thing of the past, as mentioned before. Handsel Monday continued to be celebrated, though, well into the 19th century, and especially in rural areas, as it was the only holiday servants and other manual workers could expect in a year, a day on which Hansels included time to catch up with family and friends. The Dunfermline Press in 1890 records, on farms, Old Handsel Monday, where it is kept, which implies it's starting to slip away, is the great winter holiday of the year. Outdoor and indoor servants have a complete escape from bondage for the day, and many a farmer will own that it's the hardest day's work for him and his wife throughout the year occurs on Handsel Monday. Not only has he himself to fill their place, but he's expected to hansel them from foreman to head boy, and part of the hansel almost invariably includes a gift of a little money. In one view of the matter, it is a wholesome reversal of relations between rustics and their employers. Now, as we just had Burns night, I'm going to rope in Robbie Burns here to back up my argument here. The poet and ploughman, of course, who well knew the hardships of working on the land and alludes to his own harsh introduction to the world in the song Rantin' Robin Robin, when a fierce January storm blew Hansel in on Robin. Shortly after his birth, in fact, it blew down the gable of his parents' cottage. So not the most auspicious Hansel. In the fifth stanza, he speaks of his misfortunes being great and small, but that he'll be a credit to us all. So he foretells a reversal of fortune for himself. And in the final stanza, he refers to his dalliances with the lasses, something which landed him on the cutty stool or penitent stool at the local kirk on more than one occasion. But he got his own back on the poem, The Twa Herds, mocking the godly flocks well fed on pastures orthodox, and describing firebrands such as Old Woodrow as hypocrites who hatched mischief. That was actually Robert Woodrow's son Patrick, who was a minister at Tarbolton Kirk. Burns famously said, if there be any truth in the orthodox faith of the churches, I'm damned past redemption, and what is worse, damned for all eternity. But on a lighter note, he also penned a sentimental poem about an old farmer's Hansel to his horse, the accustomed rip of corn to welcome in the new year, suggesting that goodwill was extended to animals, if not to all ministers. Staying in the 18th century, the old statistical account of 1795 records a case of a miraculous event that took place when a Handsel gift of aloe ale cured a bedridden collier of a crippling bout of arthritis. Though I wouldn't depend on it as a restorative, but it does bring a whole new meaning to the drinking salutation, your very good health. But don't try this one at home. Of course, how people celebrated depended on circumstances, and there were regional variations and often included torchlight processions, feasting and merriment. In larger towns and villages, local youths were said to go to bed early the night before, in order to wake up at midnight and go out before anybody else with shouting, singing, clanging, banging on pots and pans, blowing horns and whistles to get the party spirit going. Neighbours went from house to house to eat breakfast and cakes and biscuits and partake of whatever else was available. Wemyss folk had their own way of celebrating. Activities would have included music, dancing, but also games of yetlings on the cave site. Now, yetling is an old term for any metal object, and as described here, the game was played with metal ball, which was bowled along on a measured course along the cave site. A game, or still long ago, played at New Year, it says. Yetling is an old term, say, for metal objects, and it was a popular game in Fife, especially with the miners who played it well into the 20th century. But I've only ever heard of it being played with heavy metal discs or quoits, as seen down here on the left, rather than metal balls. And this is odd. It suggests that these balls had predated the discs, or that local miners used whatever came to hand. And it is tempting to suggest that there were small cannonballs, as the cave site was a training ground for the local militia right up to World War I, when it became, of course, a defence site. Reverberations from the gun emplacement above West Dew Cave caused it to collapse in 1914, with the loss of several beautiful Pictish carvings and incised early Christian crosses. And in fact, small bore cannonballs have been found from time to time on the cave site. We have one in our museum, or perhaps it's a yetling. So were the discs that replaced the metal balls originally horseshoes made by local furriers or blacksmiths, because quoits can be played with horseshoes, or were they loom weights? The biggest local employer next to the coal mines was locally was Johnson's Linen Mill, which operated from the 18th to the 20th century. If any member of the community recalls when metal balls were used and replaced by discs, or where they originated, please let us know. Now, whether or not they gambled on the outcome of the game is unknown, but the cave site was also used for gaming by local miners. And on the right, we see a group engaged in one or more of the more popular traditional games played at the cave site, which is pitch and toss. It's been caught on camera, but they're all curried in, so it's impossible to see what they're actually doing. And they're also hiding their features, as gaming was illegal. But we do have a short video available explaining how the games were played, and that's online. You'll find that online. Another local tradition unique to the village was the annual pilgrimage to the Well Cave, which is now closed due to safety issues. This was a pursuit of the younger and fitter of the community, as getting into the cave was never easy. The Reverend George Gibb described the entrance of the Well Cave in 1795 as very narrow, but having got through it, you can find yourself in a very spacious place in which is a well of excellent water, annually visited by the young people of East Wemyss with lights, that is the torches, upon the first Monday of January, old style. But from what this custom took its rise, the writer could never learn. And now we have another quote. This is George Dees, who was a great proponent of the cave. He described it as, he recalls it as a place of pilgrimage until about 60 years ago. As a boy, I accompanied relatives and many young people of East Wemyss to the caves with lighted torches and sang old songs on the first Monday of the year. And here's a still from one of our reenactment of the tradition, which was filmed by members of SWACS, with enacted by volunteers. And this is also available online. You can see how narrow the entrance is and how dark the interior is in this slide. So it's quite a mission getting in there. But once inside, they sang hymns, exchanged good luck Hansels, and drank the water from St. Margaret's Holy Well, named for Queen and St. Margaret of Scotland, who was noted for her piety and charity. Quite why is unknown. Why make this annual mission, and how did these rituals begin? Well, we simply don't know. There are numerous holy wells in Scotland named for saints plus Clutie wells and trees believed to assist in the cure of ailments. But with only, when you think way back, with only rudimentary medicines, people turned to superstition and to local wise women or men. But when they weren't meant to, they were meant to turn to the church to help them cure their illnesses. In the early 17th century, the Privy Council reacted to such ongoing beliefs in paganism with an inquisition. And as we saw earlier, Woodrow was still railing against it in the 18th century. However, water, especially fresh water, running water, has long held magical and spiritual associations in many places and religions around the world in the form of ritual cleansings and baptisms, for example. Bronze Age people sacrificed votive gifts of precious items into the water, including mirrors, weapons, and even people. The caves with the mysterious Pictish carvings would almost certainly have been the site of ritual processions from early times. Tradition also has it that it was a domain of fairy folk who drew people in with their magical pipes to spirit them away to other domains. We know that several of the caves along the coast, 5 coasts, were inhabited by monks and hermits, and that the Isle of May was an important early pilgrimage site, and that the monks also established a hospital there. The caves at East Wemyss are closely associated with early Christian practices, and several of the caves have inside crosses. So are these pilgrim marks, as often they're called, or do they actually, could they mark conversions, baptisms perhaps? At least 2 of the 2 Christian style burials took place below Jonathan's cave, in which there are lots of crosses. And we have to ask ourselves why this happened. Now, later pilgrims also left their marks on the well cave, carving their names or initials into the wall on Handsel Monday, as we see here, with this stylized cross, something that wouldn't be encouraged these days by Historic Scotland or SWACS. And I'm afraid our virtual shifts in through time and traditions ends here, with everything hanging on the fact that we don't know when these traditions started, but we do know that they ended as Christmas and Boxing Day took over. So I can only conclude with a belated Handsel to our members and to all our friends who support us. We wish you all good luck and good health in the new year ahead, and sincerely hope for a continued interest in support for the local community in our stewardship of the caves and cave site, and further development of our local museum and visitor centre. So thank you. If you enjoyed this talk and wish to contribute any or comments about the Handsel story, please contact us via Facebook, and to donate to the cause or the browser shop, which has a wide range of local books, jewellery and beautiful hand knits and other items, please follow this link. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Pam. That was extremely informative, very interesting, and I hope people out there who followed it enjoyed it as much as I did. So thank you everybody for joining us. We haven't had any questions posted in the chat, so we won't be putting Pam on the spot to go into any further detail on anything. But as I say again, just to reiterate what Pam says, if you want to support the work of SWACS, please feel free to go to our website, have a virtual tour around the caves, and perhaps give us a donation to help us continue the work and continue the research into this absolutely fascinating heritage site. So thanks again, and good night, everybody.